from the exploration place in Prince George. And I want to thank Mrs. Caligaros for doing this. She wanted to know more about the residential school in light of the Kamloops finding of 215 children. And she asked me what I felt about it. I told them I was a little shocked at first, but then throughout our history, most of it oral history, we have known about all these graves, secret graves. And most residential schools were run by the Roman Catholic Church. And Kamloops was one, and the other one was 200 kilometers away from west. It's called Lejac Indian Residential School. That's where I spent 11 years of my life. And throughout the years, we had oral history. But first of all, I'll leave that alone. And the second thought, when they released the press release about the graves, was I thought, geez, I thought there'd be about 20, 30 people, or find about 30 or 40 people in the secret graves. But when they said 215, I was a little shocked. And I thought to myself, this is Canada, not Slovakia or some other country, whereas they bury 2,000-3,000 at a time in these graves, mass graves. And the next thought was the poor people, the parents, and cousins, uncles, good friends. Matter of fact, the whole community. Now that they have done this, it's just pretty hard to imagine that you said your children were taken away and brought to that school. And they had over 500 boys and girls in that residential school. Whereas Lejac, they only 90 or 180 boys and girls from all over northern BC. And Lheidli, people from Lheidli, or students from Lheidli, were numbered 23 students, boys and girls, were sent there. And I can remember, that's kind of funny, when we first collected this, and they brought us across Fraser River, and we waited for a train. And we didn't know where we were going, just knew that we were going on that train. And about 10:30 in the morning, I heard the choo-choo coming, steam engine, choo-choo-choo-choo-choo-choo. And then look, we're going with that. So we jumped on, and it's only doing about 30 miles an hour. It took us forever to get from Shelley to Lejac, BC. And they stopped, the train stopped, and got out of the train, and we look up the hill and see a big red building. And my first thought, geez, big building. Second thought, how far are we from home? They brought us in, they stripped us down, gave us clothes, and deloused us. From there on, and then they brought us up to the dorms. And I can remember that dorm, I call it high dorm, it was on the 4th floor. And they had maybe 40 children from the age of 5 to 8 or 9 in a room that's 20 feet wide 30 feet long. We were crammed in there. But then I'm getting ahead of myself. And the third thought about the graves, it was about 4 words. Don't ask. Don't tell. First of all, don't ask for help in any way or shape or form. Because you know inside, deep inside of yourself, the answer would be no. And don't tell about what happened in the residential school, because nobody will believe you. Well, it's all your imagination. This didn't happen. And so on and so forth. And when I reflected on that, I just realized most of, or all the survivors lived by these 4 words. Don't ask, don't tell. Except me. Because I put that in the past where it belongs. And 4 words, these 4 words, don't ask, don't tell, sort of went in my head, and I realized that graves were sitting there for years, right? Till I had that ground penetrating radar. So them graves were there for years. And I thought to myself, that's where the 4 words come in. Don't ask. The priests or brothers or nuns about what happened to them 3 girls. One day you see them, next day they're gone. Or they go to the boys' side and there's all of a sudden 5 boys would simply disappear. And that's where they said, don't ask. Don't ask about what happened. Because they won't tell you. And that's how most survivors, they internalize all this, the residential school syndrome. They internalize it, keep it inside, deep inside. So it's very, very, very hard to talk to a residential school survivor and try to talk to him gently and slowly so that he can open up and begin to start telling you stories he has it inside of himself. He wants to tell it, but you have to do it in a different setting. One setting would be a campfire. We tried that about 2 years ago. I and Vincent Joseph. Let them survivors way up the river, sat beside a campfire. And when that happened, we had a sort of a healing talking circle. We started talking about residential schools, about Lejac and all the boys and girls. And everybody was relaxed and the stories started coming out. But they only told us so much. Because I don't know, maybe it triggered memories and they don't want to go to that part, to this part, so they'll just bury it again. And that's what happened to Kamloops. All these students, they internalized everything. They didn't want to ask for help in finding these children because they knew they'd get the reprisals from the priests, nuns, and brothers. If you ask about it, they will get the strap. If you talk about it more, we'll give you a strap. Or they'd send them up to the dormitory, and you were there for 3 or 4 days, 4 nights. And all you had to, they didn't feed you, they just gave you water. And they would tell you that's your punishment. You are not to talk about this. This is none of your business. And if it happens again, next time it might be you. And they clam right up, bang. Same thing as Lejac. They asked about these people, and I was telling my daughter about the gravesite, and I showed you where. And I told my daughter Carla about how the big boys from our side, the boys, they were from 14 to 16. They grabbed all the boys, brought them to the gravesite, dug up all the graves, all of them. Then they moved it over. And I don't know why they did that, but later on I thought about it. They're hiding something. And they did. And that's where they discovered Rose Prince. They opened her, well, one of the sisters opened accidentally, or I don't know, opened a coffin. And her body was in pristine condition. And that's how that, and to this day, it's still the same. In their approach to church about canonization of Rose Prince, hasn't happened. And I don't think it'll never happen. Simply because it's a Roman Catholic Church. They don't want to do this. Simply because they're hiding secrets. Yeah, they've been doing it for hundreds of years. All these secrets are buried, and they'll stay buried. Because if they ever discover the truth, the Roman Catholic Church and all its believers and all this, it simply implode and boom. You would hear the last of the Roman Catholic Church. But anyway, after they move all the graves, the boys were told not to dig any more graves past the fence. So you just leave that alone. Nothing there. And my uncle, he said he was in the high boys dorm, way up 4th floor. He said one night he went to the window. He saw two of them nuns or sisters carrying them oil lamps. And they were going walking to the graveyard, but not the graveyard itself. It's outside of it. There's a graveyard in this area here. And they dig unmarked grave, put one or two children in there, cover them up, make sure, and they forget about it. And like I said, oral history, we knew about that.
Do you have hopes now, Clifford, for what will happen?
Pardon?
Now that this has been discovered in no uncertain terms, do you have hopes for what happens next?
To dig up more. Like I said, the truth and reconciliation. Now the truth is coming out. The raw truth. And you have asked me last night, texting me, about what reconciliation means to me. To me, it means reconciling with oneself. To be able to say to yourself, I am sorry to myself for going on the road to healing. I'm sorry for putting myself through that. Now that you said sorry, now I can reconcile myself and keep on the road to healing. When I started that, it was a hard road to walk, very hard. And a lot of times I fell in the ditch. A lot of times I wanted to give up. And two words would pop in my head: too easy. Crawled out of the ditch, got up, kept on walking. kept on that healing road. And a lot of times I wanted to grab a bottle of whiskey or wine and try to forget. But then you can't forget what happened to you. I wanted to grab that alcohol and drink it. And again, two words came up: too easy. So I put that out of my mind, just kept on walking, and learning more about myself, of what I can do. And a lot of times I've wanted to do the unthinkable. And I said again, too easy. Let's get back on that road. Keep on. There's a light at the end of the road. I want to see what that light is made of. 2009, I reached the end of my road. And that light got brighter. And first month of the school, I went back to school, instructor's training program, and from Vancouver Community College. And I asked one of the instructors, senior instructors, Norm Dooley, he asked me, Clifford, how do you feel now? I told him, you know what, Mr. Dooley? He said, you helped me. All the instructors here helped me. Really, really helped me. We did? I said, yes, he did. He said, when I came to this school, I had metal blinders on. I was only focused in front, what was in front of me, and the past, what was in the past. As we progressed through the course, metal blinders started to open. Next thing you know, it was gone. I told Norm Dooley, you know what, Mr. Dooley, all the metal blinders are gone. And I told Norm, hey Norm, you know what? He said, what, Clifford? You know what I'm missing? He said, what? When I looked out I opened that door to where I built the big room, one door. I said, I opened that door, stepped outside, and I looked at life, and I thought to myself, life is passing me by. So from there on, I was glad I did that. Now I can face, instead of always dwelling in the past, now I can look to the future, be able to look in the future and rejoin life. Because I had done this for about 20 years. I blamed everything on everybody. And then later on I realized I didn't blame myself for what I'd done, what's happening to me. I blame everybody else except me. Now I did that, put in the past. And life is more meaningful. Because I regained my self-respect, learned to respect others. Everything's coming positive attitude to life. It took me a few years, but then when I did that, I did an experiment at college in New Caledonia, and I had about 40 students. First Nations Studies 101. I had a big green bag of two, in fact. One was half full of sand, the other one was empty. And I went to one girl, told Wendy, you follow me? Come here, I'll show you something. She went in front of the class, I told her, I'll lift that bag. She went to lift it. Hey, that's heavy. 2 hands lifted up, put it down. Now lift this one. She grabbed it, they expected it to be heavy. She went like this and boom. I told them, empty, right? Okay, now that you see that. What I've been carrying through most of my life is that bag, that green bag. It weighs about 40 pounds, physically 40 pounds. But too mentally, that's what I've been carrying through my 20 years. It was always, I was carrying it. Carrying everything, all the hatred, everything. And 2009, I let it all go. And I told her, there's an empty bag. Now it's empty, right? That's what I am now. This is before, now it's after. Now it's a new Clifford. And I like the new Clifford. I've been enjoying life. Then I thought something missing. Oh, my daughter. And we met up, and I haven't seen her in years. And to me, that I was glad that actually happened. She stayed away. One reason only, because of what I've learned in residential school, all the negativity and all that, I would have inadvertently passed on to her. She wouldn't be the person she is now. And we met at Treasure Cove casino, and I looked at her, oh man, it's like we never parted. We just kept on where we left off. And that's the first time I ever hugged somebody in all these years, because I detested, close contact, body contact. I hated that. If somebody wanted to hug me, here, glad to meet you. Or a woman come up to me, she's ready to hug me, and I'd back off. Glad to meet you. For years it was like that. And finally I met her, and first time in all these years that I've hugged her, and boy, that felt good. Oh, it felt wonderful. And I was almost crying, because I can be able to put the past in the past, look to the future, with it to help my daughter and instructors from Vancouver Community College who showed me the way, who showed me how to do this, to do that, showed me how to speak in public. Because I remember doing a presentation with about 20 of us in a classroom. My knees were shaking, my voice was so nervous, I was like that. Once I got in front of them, everything just disappeared. Told a few jokes and then I settled down. And to this day, I've always done that. Anytime I go in front, I do an opening prayer or a welcoming for any organization, I always, first things first, I always do a joke of the day.
Well, have you got one for us today? That might be a
No.
good way to finish off. You do always have a joke.
Well, it's not, keep forgetting the jokes, but what I'm going to tell you about, I've done that in College, New Caledonia. And like you asked, how are you going to end this like I did? How am I going to end this lecture on a positive note? Because what I've been teaching is all negativity and everything that's what I've been through, and I thought, and I clicked the next slide and it shows everything about and the words would bounce on, boing, 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 boing. Thank you for all your patience and understanding on this presentation. I was watching it, and all of a sudden I had an aha moment. And it just popped in my head. Red Green Show. Have you ever watched a Red Green Show?
I have.
You have?
Mm-hmm.
how does he end the show? How does he end it?
I don't remember.
You don't?
No. It's
I'll
not like
tell
I
you.
watch it every day.
I'll show you, I'll demonstrate to you.
Oh, well, then I better get ready here. Hang on.
Okay, most of us, and when CNC, I told the students, even including you and I, all of us, we go through life, skating through life with a hockey stick, right? And most of us, we have it up here. You're playing hockey, where are you gonna get somebody passes you? Your stick is up here, boom, boom, used to pass. And we're going through life like that, a hockey stick. And life has, or fate, whatever, passes you an opportunity puck, right? You're standing there, opportunity puck whizzes by, ooh, another one, another one, another one, another one, and you're watching it go by. And I told the students, except you students and I, we had our hockey sticks on ice, caught an opportunity puck. Now look where you are, look where I am. We caught that opportunity puck. We had our sticks on the ice. And we still have that opportunity puck, look where you are. From there you're gonna go to university or whatever. And I will keep on teaching simply because I enjoy it. And we all go through life with that stick. And most people go through life, they fiddle around and all of a sudden, whoa, hockey pucks go whizzing by. And they'll be sitting there, and about a week later, they always hit your forehead moment. That one puck went by and I should have had a stick on the ice. Look what happened. Or, for example, the owner of, or the starter, he's Facebook. He asked one of his friends a long time ago that if he wanted to give him $1,000. Bill Gates, one of his friends, he wanted to take $1,000 to invest in his company. And you know what that person did? He had the opportunity puck in his hand, right? Fiddle around, thinking about it. What's he want $1,000 for? You know what he does? Throws it away. 10 years later, look what happened. And he's going like this. I didn't have my stick on the ice. Look at that, Bill Gates. And in ending, what I've said, keep your stick on the ice. Thank you.